Good evening, everyone. We are now starting a new series, continuing on from the book of Deuteronomy, and it actually flows very naturally into the book of Joshua. And as we begin Joshua chapter 1, I think one of the things that we have always done with Joshua is that we have left the book of Joshua largely to the Sunday schools. And the Sunday school teachers scramble to put these stories together to teach their children. And perhaps today, let's look at the book of Joshua very much the same way that we have looked at the book of Deuteronomy. And as an introduction, I think we need to review a little bit about why Joshua is the important personality in this book. Now, as you recall, Joshua was already one of the young men who were quite able. In Exodus chapter 17, you find that he was fighting the Amalekites. And this would have been an epic battle where on top of the hill you have Moses lifting up his hands, and then you have Hur and Aaron each holding up one side of Moses' hand. And that was the beginning of the introduction to Yehoshua or Joshua, the son of Nun. Now, later on in Exodus chapter 24, you would find that Moses, after having this covenant setting with the children of Israel, he goes up to Mount Sinai again to receive the law. And Joshua joins Moses up Mount Sinai. And obviously, Joshua didn't go all the way up, but he went part way up. And Joshua is now called his attendant. The attendant or assistant to Moses. And that would be the reference to Joshua from chapter 24 onwards. When we get to Deuteronomy chapter 3, you find that this is a recollection of how Joshua saw Moses, and in this case, Moses started taking the inheritance, right? The inheritance was largely the eastern land, which is the land of King of Sihon and King of Og, and thereby apportioned to 2.5 tribes. And Joshua saw how God let Moses, take possession of the land. Later on, when we ended Deuteronomy, in chapter 31, he was presented publicly. And this is important because in the public, Joshua was again told to the people that Joshua will be the one that will replace Moses because Moses cannot cross the Jordan. And then later on in 31 verse 23, God charges Joshua. And so we have a divine appointment, we have a public announcement, and then in chapter 34 and in verse 9, you find that Moses lays hands on Joshua. And in so doing, this formalized what God had done in the public with Joshua. And so this itself is a very important understanding why Joshua is the one and not Aaron. And you notice on Sunday when we covered Exodus chapter 32, Aaron had failed God in leading the people. And he had been willing to succumb to the pressure. And so all through, from Exodus all the way to Deuteronomy, we are told that it was Joshua all the way. And so hence we come to the book of Joshua. Joshua begins by the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord. And this is the episode, and it opens up after the death of Moses, and we have covered that in Deuteronomy 34 last week. Well, it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua or Yehoshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant. And so I want you to understand this one is Yehoshua, the son of Nun. And notice, God spoke. And this appears to be the continuation of that interaction between God and Moses, and now God and Joshua. Now, obviously, Joshua doesn't know God the same way that Moses had known God all his life for about 80 over years. But more importantly is Joshua saw how Moses interacted with God, his attitude towards God, and now Joshua takes over the mantle, so to speak, of Moses. And he was Moses' assistant, or we can call him an attendant. Meaning, he would have been the personal secretary to Moses, his PA. He says, Moses, my servant, is dead. It's over. Now, therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, to the land which I am giving to them, the children of Israel. And notice, when you talk about the children of Israel, we're talking about the 12 tribes. Now, although we already know 2.5 tribes had taken the possession on the eastern shore, this is a manner of speaking, because the possession, the land that God is giving them, is that possession. And so God is using this to depict the narrative that this is the continuation of the possession. Now, the key here is God giving. As you recall in Deuteronomy chapter 1, 2, and 3, when Moses recounted when they came up from the south, they passed by Edom, then Moab, and then Ammon, and God says, I did not give the land to you, so don't make any fuss there. You cannot touch any of those land. Why? Because God had earlier on given to Esau and his descendants, that would be Edom, and then to the descendants of Lot, that would be Moab and Ammon. And so God says, land already given, don't touch. And so when they went further up, God says, yes, I'm giving you this land, the land of the Amorites. And Moses took that land. Now when they cross over the Jordan, God is also giving them this land on the west of Jordan. And so that is the background that we need to be very clear. It says, every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given you. So wherever they go on the western side of the Jordan, God says, I will give you. You step on it, I give you. Now, this idea of foot will tread is a very visual. And so when God brought Abraham down to Canaan in Genesis chapter 12 onwards, he walked from the north to the south. And God says, wherever you walk, I have given you to your descendants. And that is the very graphic Hebraic feature of the text. And so wherever they walk, wherever they conquer, God says, I've given you, as I had said to Moshe. From the wilderness to this Lebanon, as far as the great river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and to the great sea towards the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. I think this is a very incredible definition of the boundary. And we see this boundary in Genesis chapter 15 and then 17. And so from the wilderness, which is the south, right, to this Lebanon, which is the north, as far as the great river Euphrates that borders into the Babylon territory, all the land of the Hittites, which encompasses that area, to the great sea towards the going down of the sun, the west, shall be your territory. The great sea would be the Mediterranean. And so that would be the north, south, east, and west of all the land that they can see and walk and traverse. And the promise of God is that no man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life, as I was with Moses, and I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. Now we have seen this before, that God says, I will not leave you and forsake you. And this would have been a passage from Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6 to 8, right? 6 to 8, because it encompasses the be strong and be of good courage. Understand this, that when we were at Deuteronomy chapter 31, when God says, I will not leave you nor forsake you, be strong and of good courage, literally means it is God's obligation, and he's promising that he will not leave you nor forsake you. Now understand, when we were there, this is conditional. But here we get the positive aspect of the promise of God. And so whenever you read all these texts, do not, spin off into a tangent and say, yeah, God will never leave us. And that is not true, at least from what we have read in Deuteronomy 31. And the condition there was, do not go after other gods. Idolatry to God, having a God before him, towards his face, is an abomination. And God says, I will forsake you, because when you join up with the other gods, how can I be in the midst of you? And so God does forsake them as a warning. Well, eventually, when we read in the book of Jeremiah, Isaiah, and some of the later prophets, and then the Assyrians came, then the Babylonians came, all because of two things: Hamas, which is injustice and violence against society, as well as an incredible series of warnings against idolatry. And so these are the same words. God says, I will, and that's God's promise. He won't do it on his part. But when they depart from God, God will depart from them, because God cannot live amongst them when they live amongst the idols. And so be strong and of good courage, for this people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers. Now, the division here is very important, because this is the idea of taking possession, really, how should we say, taking possession as an allotment, right? As an allotment. Because they have to decide that after the land is taken, who gets which piece. Verse 7, only be strong and very courageous. Be strong means to be firm, to be resolute, right? Have faith in God, literally. Be courageous is also another aspect of being strong. And this would be about being bold. Be determined, right? And the reason is this is an A and a B. And the reason is there are times when they look at the situation and it could look impossible. But since this is given by God, which God swore to their fathers to give them, then you must, regardless of what they see before them, do not fear, right? That you may observe to do according to all, not some, all the law. Now in verse 7, when it says all the law, this would be Torah. And that is why they have always got to be committed to that which Moses, my servant, commanded you. And how did Moses command? Understand this. This is a very important thing. God instructed Moses to instruct the people. That's how it goes. So the law is actually, although called the Mosaic law, it is not Moses' own invention. It is God telling Moses, my servant, to say to the people and then write it down. And do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Now understand, in the idea of prospering is to have success. And what do you mean to have success? Is that whatever they do, they can push forward. And look at the instruction, this book of the law. It's about the book of Torah. The book of the Torah shall not depart. The idea of depart right here means to be removed. You shall not be removed from your mouth. And the whole idea of mouth is that the passing on of the Torah is by word of mouth. Meaning, although Moses would have written it down and have passed it to the Levites in Deuteronomy 31, they would be heard because they don't have printing press. They would hear it and they will teach it to their children and to their children's children. And we have seen that in Deuteronomy. It is through teaching by mouth. And then you shall meditate in it day and night. Now we need to understand the idea of meditate. And this one, I think you should refer to Psalm chapter 1, verse 2. David remembers this as well. And the idea of meditate, also in terms of muttering, repeating, to speak it, right? To speak it, and to, well, I guess you can repeat it verbally, and that's the idea of meditating. There's another aspect of meditating, which is to ponder and to reflect over the word of God. And so in Psalm chapter 1, verse 2, it says that he who desires the law and meditates on it day and night shall be happy. Shall be happy. That you may observe to do according to all that is written in it, to guard, to be careful, and then to do is to perform it. And when you do that, then in verse 8, the idea here is for then. Literally means for the This is for the purpose. And this part here literally means, how should I say? Therefore. And if you do observe, then you will make your way prosperous. And the word prosperous here, in verse 8, and then this word here is be strong, right? Be strong. Be strong means to advance, right? In this case, it means to advance. Very similar to Psalms chapter 1 as well. To make prosperous, to advance, to move forward. And then you will have good success. And interestingly, this is an A and this is a B, a different way of expressing success. This word here is, I guess it is to prosper. It is to prosper. That is what it means by good success. There's no tov here. Good success means it will prosper, and this is an A and a B. God says you can only do that if you observe to do all, not part, all that is written. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid. Do not be dismayed, for the Lord is with you wherever you go. This is a great promise. Very important. Be resolute. Be determined. So be strong and of good courage is the same, A and a B. Do not tremble. The word afraid here is to tremble. Nor be dismayed. Dismayed here means to be, well, I guess you could say to be broken. To be broken, to be shattered, and this is also an A and a B. The idea of trembling until you are in pieces, right? So do not be afraid, do not be dismayed. Why? When you need to be resolute and not afraid, the reason is very, very simple. Jehovah, your God, says that He is with you. When God is with you, who can be against you? That would be the implication here. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go, then you have nothing to be afraid. This is an incredible introduction to Joshua. In verse 10, Joshua then commands the officers of the people. The idea of the officers of the people, I think we could use the word maybe as an official of the people. Official would mean people who are overseers, right? Of the people, saying, pass through the camp and command the people. This is to get ready, prepare provisions for yourselves, for within 3 days you will cross over this Jordan to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess. This is the first instruction that Joshua is giving. Prepare provisions really is to get ready. And as you know, this is to collect everything that they have, that they are on the move again. And this word for within 3 days actually means for, I would say, for 3 continuous days. Not within 3 days, but after 3 continuous days, you will cross over this Jordan and they begin their journey. Verse 12. To the Reubenites, Gadites, and half tribe of Manasseh. Remember, Reuben, Gad, and half tribe of Manasseh, they had already taken the east of Jordan. And they are now the gatekeepers of the boundaries of the promised land. So Joshua told them, saying, remember the word which Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you. The Lord your God is giving you rest and is giving you this land. Now understand this word rest. In verse 13, it says, God is giving you to cause you to rest, to cause you to how should you say, to remain, to settle down, and of course to rest in the place so that they don't have to travel anymore and it's their own place. And so this word rest is very important because it literally reflects the fact that now that they have their own place, it's like when you have your own home, when you go back, you rest. That is what it means. You can settle in, you can remain in your house. And so they have the land and God has given you this land. And this would be the eastern side of the Jordan. And it says your wives, your little ones, your livestock, they can remain. Verse 14 says that you can actually stay there. Right? You can sit there. The word remain in this case is to sit in the land, to reside in the land, which Moses gave you on this side of the Jordan. Which side is this? The eastern side of the Jordan, right? But you shall pass before your brethren armed. Who is you? Now, always remember, whenever it talked about all this, these would be the men 20 years and above, right? They are going to war. All your mighty men of valor, and help them. Who is them? Your brethren. Your brethren. And so join your brethren in the fight because you have already gotten it and you were the first to get it. And the condition is your family can stay, but you have to go until the Lord has given your brethren the rest. And now, verse 15, the idea of rest is actually the same word, right? The same word as this. And the word is Noach, right? It's very interesting. It comes from the word Noah, right? It comes from the word Noah. And you know, Noah means rest. And this is rest. It means to settle down and rest. So the root word of rest is Noah. But of course, it's not that actual word being used here, but it comes from the same root. And so rest literally means when you have finished fighting. That is what it means, right? When you have finished fighting. And then they also have taken possession of the land that God is giving them. And then you return to the land of your possession and go enjoy it. Now, interestingly, verse 15 tells us this. I guess the idea here is not so much to enjoy, I guess. The land of your possession, and then basically to inherit it. Now, the word inherit does carry a connotation to well, I guess to enjoy, but I don't think that is the primary word, right? I don't think that's a primary word. God has given them, and they are to inherit it on this side of the Jordan towards the sunrise, and this literally means the east. And so they can go back and take possession of their land. That's basically how it is expressed in verse 15. And now in verse 16, that's the final verse, 16 and to 18, then they answered, they would be this would be the men of Israel, and in particular Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. But really, I think this would mean all of them as well, that all you command us, we will do, and ever you send us, we will go, just as we heeded Moses in all things, so we will heed you. And this would be a ratification of Joshua. So there is no doubt that Joshua is the next chief in command after Moses. So as we have heeded Moses in all things, so we will heed you. This is a confirmation that Joshua is going to be their leader, and their commitment is what you command, we will do. Where you send us, we will go. And then these are words of commitment. And so that is where we are now in the end of chapter 1. Only the Lord your God be with you. This is their condition. For the Lord your God to be with you, as he was with Moses, requires a relationship between Joshua and God, just as Moses was with God. And so I guess you could see that it's a two-way understanding. Only the Lord your God be with you is a condition of their allegiance. And the condition is God and Joshua must have that intimate relationship like God and Moses, which means that Joshua is to obey God, and God will be pleased with Joshua, and therefore will be pleased with the people. And you can see that that would be a very Hebrew way of looking at a leader. That the very leader that the people look up to, the people will expect that leader to be close to God, so that that leader can lead and give instructions that is from God, right? That is from God. So finally, verse 18, whoever rebels against your command and does not heed your words in all that you command him. Let's break this down first. First, the word rebel. The word rebel is disobey. It also means to resist, right? And that is to be contentious, to argue against your command. You see, Joshua is going in as commander-in-chief. There is no giving of God's commands as to the Torah anymore, because that is done. Moses completed that in the book of Deuteronomy. In the book of Joshua, the command is to fight, to go to battle. And they're saying, yes, anyone who disagree with you, and the second part of this sentence is, does not hear your words, and instantly you see that this is an A and this is a B. Right? Does not hear your words means to rebel. It is very important that throughout the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible shows us that there is a constant display of the technique of emphasis, where you have two sentences emphasizing the same, sometimes three, sometimes four, sometimes five, but generally two. An A and a B is what I have meant. And that person shall be executed. That is important. The idea here is actually, it means be put to death, to die prematurely, to be executed. And it is that important that anyone who disagree with Joshua must die. And so again, be strong and of good courage. Again, I want all of us to be very clear. Be strong is resolute. Be strong-minded. Right? Be strong-minded. The second one is indeed the same. And this would be to be brave, to be bold. Do not be afraid, so that you are able to be alert and go into battle mentally strong. And so you could see that these are complementary statements as well, that they stay focused to their calling, stay focused to their role, stay focused to what God has instructed Joshua, who in turn instruct the rest of the children of Israel to go and take possession of the land. And with this, we come to the end of chapter 1 of the book of Joshua.